So welcome everybody to this latest video on 160 Maths. In this video we'll be going over the AQA GCSE Maths June 2018 Higher Paper 1, which is a non-calculus paper. Now as always there'll be a link to the paper in the description below along with the grade boundaries for this individual paper, so once you've marked your paper you can then see how well you've done. So let's get started on this AQA GCSE Maths June 2018 Higher Paper 1, which is a non-calculated paper. So looking at question 1, it says work out the cube root of 64 times 1000. So for this, what we need to do is easier to cube root 64 and multiply that by the cube root of 1000, which the cube root of 64 is 4 and the cube root of 1000 is 10. So we're doing 4 times 10, which is 40. With question 2, it says that the vector minus 2, 3 translate to A to B. Circle the vector that translate B to A. So this, all we need to do is just reverse the signs of the numbers. So if we reverse the sign of minus 2, that becomes positive 2. And if we reverse the sign of 3, that becomes minus 3. So our correct answer is going to be our fourth option. Then with question 3, it says circle the expression that is equivalent to 3A minus A times 4a plus 2a. Now for this you just need to make sure that you're not just reading the equation from left to right. You've got to make sure that you're incorporating BIDMAS. So what we need to do first is these two bits here first. So we've got a times 4a, which is 4a squared, and that's 3a minus plus 2a. So then joining these two things together we get 5a minus 4a squared, which is our third option. So then moving on to question 4, it says circle the number that is the closest in value to 9.8 over 0.0195. So for this, all we need to do is just round these numbers up to one sig fig. So we've got 10 over, and it's going to be 0.02. So basically what this is saying is how many 2 pences are there in £10, and the correct answer there is 500. Then for question 5, it's about solving this inequality equation. So the first you want to do is, or potentially one of the things that you might want to do is expand the brackets. Not essential, you could just divide by 60 by 5. But most commonly you probably expand the brackets. And then we've got 5x is less than 45, x is less than 9. So if you have your answers x is less than 9 or 9 is greater than x, that's fine. As long as your inequality is pointing at the x, happy days. Then moving on to question 6, it says the height of Zach is 1.86 meters, the height of Fred is 1.6 meters. Write the height of Zach as a fraction of the height of Fred. Give your answer in its simplest form. So here what we're doing is 1.86 over 1.6. Then if we convert that into centimeters, we get 186 over 160. Then we just need to simplify that as 93 over 80. And then from this, you can either write it as a mixed number, so we get 1 and 13 over 80, or you could leave your answer like so. So any of those two answers will be fine. Then for question 7, it then says for us to, it says A is 0, 2, B is 6, 5, and the points on a straight line of A, B, C, D. Now it says the distance between each of those coordinates is the same, and what we need to do is work out the value of D. So for this, what we want to do is, first of all, if I just kind of highlight where the Y sort of ordinates of B, C, D are, and the same for the X ordinates, what you want to do is work out the difference by using the coordinates of A and B. So here you can see that the difference in the X values is 6. So that means that's going to be 6, that's going to be 12, and that's going to be 18. Now again, working through the Y ordinates of 2 and 5, we can see that this is going to be 2, this is going to be 5. So that means that the difference between the Y ordinates is going up in 3. So that's going to be plus 3, that is going to be plus 3. So then working from 2, so 2, 5, next one's going to be 8, next one's going to be 11. So from this we get the coordinates of D as being 18, 11. Now moving on to question 8, it says that a coin is thrown 50 times, it lands on a head 31 times. Write down the relative frequency. Well, relative frequency is the number of times it occurs, which is 31, over the total number of times, which is 50, and we can't simplify that. It's also only worth 1 mark, so 31 over 50 is fine. It then says that Raj says that the coin is biased towards heads. Use the data to give a reason why he might be correct. And the reason could be is because if it was fair, then the probability of a head would be close to 0.5. And so something along the lines of the fact that I don't know what 31 over 50 is, it's going to be 0.62. If you're not sure how I've done that, well, 31 over 50 is 62 over 100, which is 0.62, is greater than 0.5. So something other than comparing the fact that it's not 50% or there's more than 50% chance of going ahead shows that there is a chance it could be bias. Then, moving on to question 9, it says the range of a set of numbers is 15 1/4. The smallest number is -2 7/8. Work out the larger number. Now, for this, what we need to do is basically do 15 1/4, so the range, and then we need to take away what the smallest number is, so it's 2 7/8. So one way of doing this is to convert it into improper fractions. So we've got 61 over 4 minus, and it's going to be 23 over 8, which is 122 over 8 minus 23 over 8, which then becomes 99 over 8, which then becomes 12 3/8. Now, in terms of answers, I would say they would accept any of those two would be absolutely fine. Then with question 10, it says y is inversely proportional to x. Complete the table. So here, using this, what we need to do is translate it into maths notation. So y is inversely proportional to x. So y equals k over x. And then using the two values I know from the table of when y equals 4, x equals 6, we get 4 equals k over 6. So k equals 24. So then the formula is going to equal y equals 24 over x. So here, 24 divided by x is going to be 2. And 24 divided by 8 is going to be 3. So that number there is 3. Then moving on to question 11, it says that a large rectangle is made by joining 3 identical small rectangles as shown. The perimeter of one small rectangle is 15 centimeters, and it says work out the perimeter of the large rectangle. So in terms of this, we know that all of this distance around one of these rectangles is 15. So from this, we can then say that it's going to be twice the length. So if this was 2x, that's going to be 1x. And again, the reason for that is because that's 2x is going to be split up into 2. So that's going to be x, that's going to be x. So from this, what we've then got is if I work out the perimeter of one of those sort of orange rectangles, we get 6x equals 15. So from this, we can then work out what x is. So x equals 15 divided by 6, which is 5 over 2, which equals 2.5 centimeters. So what I've therefore worked out is that this length here is 5 centimeters, this is 2.5, that's 2.5, that's 5, 2.5, and that's going to be 5 centimeters. So to work out the perimeter of the large rectangle, it's going to be 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 5 plus 2.5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 2.5. Let me just put that 2.5 there. And that, if I add that all up, gives me 15 plus 10, which gives me an answer of 25 centimeters. Then moving on to question 12, it says put these numbers in order from smallest to largest. So it's probably worth converting each of these in terms of their sort of ordinary form. So this is going to be 0.0008. This number here is 0.04. This number here is 0.0006. And this number is going to be 0.07, and then just putting those either in its converted form or its standard form where it's been written, that's going to be absolutely fine. So here we get 0.0006, which is 6 times 10 to the minus 4. We then get the next one, which is the next biggest, I say 0.0008, which is 8 times 10 to the power of minus 4. We've then got the next smallest, which is 0.04, which is 4 times 10 to the power of minus 2. And the biggest number is 0.07. And there we go. The next question, question 13, says circle the volume that is same as 15 centimeter cubed, and you can see that all our options are in millimeter cubed. So if I just draw a shape, doesn't matter what it is, and it's not even going to need to be accurate, and I just think of 3 numbers that multiply together give you 15. So I could go for 5, 3 and 1. And again, if I write that in centimeters, that is there. Now if I then convert each of these lengths into millimeters, that's going to be 50 millimeters, that's going to be 30 millimeters, and that's going to be 10 millimeters. Then the volume using millimeters is going to be 50 times 30 times 10. So 5 times 3 times 1 is 15. And then how many zeros have I got altogether? Well, I've got 3. So it's 15,000, I should say. So it's my first option. With question 14, it says patterns are made using straight lines and arcs. More rows are added to pattern B so that the number of straight lines to the number of arcs is in the ratio of 10 to 9. How many rows were added? So let's first of all do the counting. So in terms of our first row, if I just write row number, and then we've got the number of straight lines and the number of arcs. And I need to write that in a ratio. So for the first row, we've got 5 and 8. In the second row, I've got 10 to 12. And this is my B, because that's our starting one. And then if I then start adding 5, 20, 25, 30, and then what I'm looking for, and add 4 to this one, what I'm looking for is a ratio of 10 to 9. So I've got 24 to 25, 30 to 28, 35 to 32, 40 to 36, and winner, chicken dinner, we've got 40 to 32, which is 10 to 9. So after how many weeks is that? Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the answer then is 6 weeks. So looking at question 14b, it says that a different pattern is made using 20 straight lines and 16 arcs. The straight lines and arcs are made from metal. 20 straight lines cost £12, and the cost of one straight line to the cost of one arc is 2 to 3. Work out the total cost of the metal in the pattern. So the first thing we need to do first is work out the total cost of one straight line, and we can do that by using this information here. So if I do 12 divided by 20, so 12 over 20 is 6 over 10, which is 0.6, so it costs 60 pence per line. Let me just put that in a box. So the next thing I then need to do is work out the cost of an arc. Now to do that, it's in the ratio of 2 to 3. So here I've got 60 pence divided by 2 times 3, and that gives me an answer of 60 divided by 2 is 30, times 3 is 90, so it's going to be 90 pence per arc. So then once I've got my two prices of those two, I can then use this information here. So I've got 20 times 60 pence, 0.6 or 60 pence, plus 16 times 90 pence or 0.9, and if I work those amounts out either using long multiplication, I get £14.40 plus £12, actually the other way around rather, that's going to be £12 and that's going to be £14.40, giving me a total cost of £26.40. Then moving on to question 15, it says that a bias die dice is thrown, here is the probability of each of the scores. The dice is thrown 200 times. Work out the expected number of times the score will be odd. So for this, what I need to do is look at the odd probabilities and add them all up. So here I've got 0.25 times 0.15. Again, when I'm multiplying, I should be adding. So just stick a plus there, plus 0.3, and that comes up to a total of 0.7. Then from this, I then need to do 0.7 times 200. And so 0.7 times 100 is 70. 70 times 2 is 140. Then looking at question 16, it says that the value of y is 20% more than the value of x. Circle the ratio of x to y. So here what we've got is that 1y is equal to 1.2x. So then from this, what I then get is, looking at what each of those are, I can see that I've got that x to y, or x over y, is going to be equal to 1 over 1.2. So then the ratio that I'm then converting is x to y is going to be equal to 1 to 1.2. Now obviously none of these are fractions, so what we then need to do is then convert them into fractions into decimal. So we need to convert these, so I can do that by multiplying both numbers by 5, in which then I get 5 to 6, so it's my first option. Then with question 17, it says here is a triangle, and what it says that I'm going to have to use is the sine rule to work out what x is. So again, looking at opposite sides, so x is opposite to this, so it's going to be x over sine 42, and then I'm going for 15 because I don't know what this length is. That length then becomes obsolete, so it's 15 over sine of 104, which is that option there. Then for question 18, it says that here is a tunnel from a toy train. The diagram below shows the cross-section of the tunnel. It says that AD is a semicircle arc of the radius of 10, BD is a semicircle arc of a radius of 7. The length of the tunnel is 30 centimeters, and the question is asking us to work out the total area of all 6 faces of the tunnel. And it says give your answer in terms of pi. Now there's several areas that you need to be aware of. Now where the 6 areas are is this here, which is going to be a rectangle, and this is going to be 30, and this bit here is going to be the semicircle of BC. I'm then going to have this rectangle here, AD, and that's going to be the semicircle of AD by 30. And then what I've then got are my 2 rectangles here. So I've got this rectangle here and this rectangle here, which is going to be 3 by 30. And again, I've got another 3 by 30, so that's giving me 4. And the last bit of face I need to work out is the little shoehorn bit, in which I've got 2 of those. And this area here is going to be the area of semicircle of the big one, which is AD, minus the area of the semicircle BC. So and I've got 2 of those. So they're the 6 faces. That's really, really important. Again, we're looking at it in terms of pi, and it is worth 5 marks. So it is definitely worth just taking our time with this. So let's have a look at doing that then. So let's first of all find the blue area, or not blue area. Let's see what we've colored it. So let's go for the green one first, and I'll try and color code this so you can see which bits I'm actually working out. So let's just call that number 1. So in terms of hashtag 1, we get that is going to be the pi, or it's going to be, well, the semicircle is going to be 2 pi r divided by 2, and then multiply that by the length. So here we're going to have 20 pi divided by 2 times 30, which gives me an answer of 10 pi times 30, which gives me an answer of 300 pi. Then for number 2, and let me just go back to what I've called that, so that's the pink one. That's going to be the semicircle with a radius of 7. So it's going to be 2 times 7 times pi divided by 2 times 30, which gives me 14 pi divided by 2 times 30, which is 7 pi times 30, which gives me 210 pi. Then in terms of 3, let's just call that hashtag 3, and this is the same. So hashtag 3 times 2 is going to be 3 times 30 times 2, which is 90 times 2, which is 180. And then looking at 4, so I just call this hashtag 4. So with hashtag 4, so it's the area of the big semicircle, which is pi times, and the radius of that was 10. So 10 squared divided by 2, take away pi times the smaller circle, which was 7. And so it's going to be 7 squared over 2. And that then becomes 100 pi divided by 2 minus 49 pi divided by 2, which leaves me with 51 pi divided by 2. And then from this, what we can then do is work that out. So from this then, and we've got 2 of those, minus the area of the small semicircle, and we've got 2 of those, so I times that by 2, which therefore equals 51 pi. Then what I then need to do is just simply add all of these things together. So I've got 300 pi, 210 pi, 180 and 51 pi. So then the total surface area is going to be 300 pi plus 210 pi plus 51 pi plus 180, and if I do all of that and add it all together, I get 561 pi plus 180. Then for question 19, it says that type A batteries and type B batteries were tested. The cumulative frequency diagram shows information about the battery life of type A, and the first one says estimate the interquartile range of type A. So to find the interquartile range, what I need to do is look at the total frequency, which is 80, and divide that by 4. So the first one is going to be at 20. So this here is my lower quartile. My median value, which I don't need to work out, but I'm going to just write it down anyway. So this is my median. And my upper quartile is therefore going to be at 60. Now the interquartile range is going to be the lower quartile, which is 1100, minus the upper quartile, which is 1400. So 1400 divided by, take away from 1100 is 300. Then it says estimate the number of type A batteries that had a battery life of more than 600. So 1600 I should say. So what I'm then doing for B is finding 1600 and then going up to the graph. Now this is what gives me the value that's less than, and I make that to be 76. So from this, 76 are 1600 hours or less. Now the question's asking for how many are more than. So to work out the more than value, I just need to take away the total frequency minus how much that are less than that, and that gives me an answer of 4. Then for C, it says the box plot shows the information about battery life of type B. It says, on average, which type had a greater battery life? And then it says we just need to compare the two. So the answer here is going to be type B. Why? Because it has a higher median value. Now you could quote the values, which is absolutely fine. So you could quote 1300 for type B, and then for for looking at the cumulative frequency diagram, you can see that my median value is around about 1250. So again, that's just worth just writing that. So median for B equals, I think it was 1300. Yeah, 1300 hours. And the median for A was around 12.5. So then moving on to question 20, it says their linear sequence starts A plus 2B, and then the next one sees A plus 6B, and then A plus 10B. It says the second term has a value of 8, the fifth term has a value of 44. Work out the values of A and B. So the first thing we need to do is work out what the fifth term is. So you can see here, what we're adding? Well, we're adding 4B. So then our fourth term is going to be A plus 14B. And if we add 4B to that, it's going to be A plus 18B. So what I know is that the second term, which is this, so A plus 6B equals 8. And the fifth term, which is A plus 18B, equals 44. And we want to find the values of A and B. And so what you should know is that this is slowly starting to look like a simultaneous equation. So A plus 18B equals 44. A plus 6B equals 8. So as the A's are the same, I can take away. So I've got 12B equals 36. So B equals 3. And then using A plus 6B equals 8, we can then see that 6 times 3 gives me 18. So A plus 18 equals 8. So A equals minus 10. And there I've got my two values. So minus 10 and 3. Then moving on to question 21, it says that enlarge the triangle ABC by a scale factor of -2 from the center of 4, 1. So again, if you're not sure on how to do this, if you go from the center of enlargement to A, you can see that the column vector is going to be 4, 0. Now, if I multiply that by -2, I get -8, 0. So from this, if I go 8 squares to the left, so that's 4, and that's another 4, that is where A dash is going to be. And then if I do the center of enlargement to B, so to go from this, which is my COE, to B, it's going to be 2 minus 2. And if I multiply that by -2, I get -4 and 4. So if I go 4 to the left and then 4 up, it then brings me here. So that's where my B dash is going to be. And then if I then repeat the process for C, I find that it's going to be here. So then all I then need to do is join them up with a straight edge. And again, I'm just going to kind of just cheat in terms of that. And then you can check your answers by drawing projection lines, which they'll want to see from the corresponding points. So like so, and you want to show that they do meet at that center of enlargement. Then for question 22, it says which of these represents the shaded region? Well, for this, it's going to be is A or not B. So it's our third option. Then with question 23, it says that a shopkeeper compares the income of sales of a laptop in March and April. By what fraction does the income from these sales decrease in April? So for this, what we need to do is we can see here that we're getting 1 over 5 more than March. So that's going to be 1 plus 1 over 5, which is 6 over 5. And then if we're getting a quarter of the numbers sold less than March, then that's going to be 1 minus a quarter, which equals 3/4. Then from this, if you want to work out what fraction of the sales decreased in April, we then need to then do 6 over 5 multiplied by 3 over 4 because it's the price times the number of that we've sold, and then we then get a total of 18 over 20, which then simplifies to be 9 over 10. So how much of a decrease have we got from 1 minus 9 over 10? Well, that's going to be 1 over 10, so that's a 10% decrease. So again, you can write that in your answer as either 1 over 10 or a 10% decrease. So for question 24, it says work out the value of 2 to the power 14 divided by 2 to the power 9 squared. So for this, what we need to do is simplify this bit here first. And again, we multiply the powers when you've got brackets. So it's 2 to the power 14 divided by 2 to the power of 18, which then becomes 2 to the power of minus 4. Now we want to write this as a fraction, so that then becomes 1 over 2 to the power 4, and 2 to the power 4 is 1 over 16. Then with B, it says work out the value of 25 to the power of 3 over 2. Now with this, remember that the numerator in the power refers to the power, and the denominator refers to the root. So here we've got 25 cubed square rooted. Now what's easier, cubing 25 or square rooting 25? Hopefully you've said square rooting, so it's the same as 5 cubed, and 5 cubed is 125. Then moving on to question 25, it says here is a sketch of the graph of y equals cos x, and it says cos x equals cos 60. Work out the value of x when x is between 90 and 360. So here we've got cos 60, which is here, and we're looking for the region of where it's between 90 and 360. So where does that meet again? Well, it's going to be here. And then, so what is this number here? Well, that's going to be 300. Then for 25b, it says cos x equals minus 60. So if we apply the same rules between 180 and 360, we should get our answer as 240. So looking at question 26, it says that B is 2/3 of C, 5A is equal to 4C. Work out the ratio of A to B to C, giving your answer in the simplest form where A, B and C are integers. So for this, what we need to do is look at equations to ratios, and ratios into equations is what we need to do first. So looking at this first one here, we can see that B is equal to, well, B equals C. So we just need to work out in terms of what this actually represents. So it says B is 2/3 of C. So then if I do that, so here I've got B is equal to 2 over 3 C. So then from this, I can then go for B over C equals 2/3. And then converting this into my ratio, I get B to C equals 2 to 3. And let's just keep that out there. Then for 5A to equals 4C, so 5A equals 4C, what I then have is that A equals, well, A over C is going to equal 4 over 5. And then from this, I can then write this as a ratio as A to C is equal to 4 to 5. Now using these ratios, what I'm trying to do is get one letter the same. So here I've got A to C and B to C. So here I've got A, B and C. So if I just substitute the numbers in, I've got that this ratio is 4 to 5, and this ratio here, if I just write in pink, is 2 to 3. So what I'm trying to do is try and find a common ratio. So if I then make out that C is going to be 15, then what I'm doing is I'm multiplying this ratio by 5. What colour are we doing? Pink. So we're going to multiply this ratio by 5. I'm then going to multiply this ratio by 3. And so 2 times 5, it gives me 10. And 4 times 3 gives me 12. So there is my ratio of 12 to 10 to 15. Like so. So then moving on to question 27, it says that Joe wants to work out the solutions of x squared plus 3x minus 5 equals 0. It says assert the solutions cannot be worked out because it doesn't factorize. Is Joe correct? Well, the answer is going to be no. And the reason for that is you could use the quadratic formula to solve. So something along those lines should be absolutely fine. It then says for B, it says without expanding the brackets, show how to work out the exact solutions of, then we've got this, give your solution. So what we need to do is just then go on to solve it. So I've got 9x plus 3 squared equals 4. So it's just solving using completing the squares. So I've got x plus 3 squared equals 4 over 9. Then we've got x plus 3 to then square root it. So it's going to be plus minus the square root of 4 over 9, which is x plus 3 equals plus or minus square root of 4 is 2, square root of 9 is 3, and then we just take away the 3. So x equals minus 3 plus or minus 2 over 3. Or you could write your answer as plus minus 2 over 3 minus 3. So any of those would be absolutely fine as your final answer. Then moving on to question 28, it says to simplify, and then we've just got this Surds. So a couple of things we need to do here. So let's first of all start, and there's several ways in which you can do this. Here's only worth 3 marks. So knowing me, I'm probably going to go the long-rooted way of doing this. So I get root 80, and that's the same as root 16 times root 5, which is 4 root 5. Then if I look at the square root of 2 and 2/9, so if I first convert that into a improper fraction, I get 20 over 9, which gives me root 20 over 3, and root 20 we know is 2 root 5 over 3. So what this equation here then becomes is 4 root 5 plus 2 root 5 over 3. Now from this, what I can then do is a couple of things. So that's what I then need to, and that's what this equals. And then from this, what I'm trying to do is if I convert this as a fraction over 3 by multiplying by 3, I get 12 root 5 over 3 plus 2 root 5 over 3. Now I've got a common denominator. That then becomes 14 root 5 over 3. And that there is my final answer. So and there you go. So 14 over 5 over root 3 rather. So moving on to question 29, it says that here are the sketches of 2 graphs. The graph of y equals x squared minus 1 is translated 3 units to the left to give the graph of A. So this is to do with graph transformations. So here, if we're shifting 3 to the left, it means we've got to add 3 to x. So then what that then becomes is x plus 3 squared minus 1, and what we then need to do is just simply expand and simplify. So here I get y equals x plus 3 minus 1. So y equals, and it's going to be x squared plus 6x plus 9 minus 1. So y equals x squared plus 6x plus 8. So b equals 6 and c equals 8. Then for B, it says the graph of x squared minus 1 is reflected on the x-axis to give graph B. Write down the equation of graph B. So here, all we need to do here is basically multiply everything by minus 1. So multiply the equation or the function by minus 1. So if we change the sign of all of this, we get y equals minus x squared plus 1, or 1 minus x squared. Any of those would be absolutely fine. Then for our last and final question, we're looking at an exact values of trig question. So with this, it's important that we recognize that cos 30 is root 3 over 2. Tan 60 is equal to root 3. And sine 30 is a half. So from those, what we can then do is substitute it all into these things here, in which what we get is we get root 3 over 2 times root 3 plus a half. Now simplifying this first bit, root 3 times root 3 is root 9 over 2 plus a half. Root 9 is 3, so it's 3 over 2 plus a half, which then becomes 4 over 2, which equals 2. Is that an integer? Yes. And we are done. Now I will include so once you've marked your paper, total up your score, now I will include the grade boundaries of this individual paper in the description below for you to assess how well you've done.